everyone, how are you going today? Today we're going to be talking about fad diets. You've ever heard of the term a fad diet? I've been on them, yes, okay, so probably some of us have done that. Anyway, I'll go through a bit of presentation here. So if you have any questions, not sure about something, just put up your hand or yell out or something like that, and I'll be happy to have a chat. Okay, so why do people go on fad diets? Basically improve health. Weight management is probably the biggest one that comes around there as far as put onto a fad diet. Improve energy, decrease depression, and to fight cancer among other things. Just in relation to overweight and obesity, a number of other health problems can be associated with that, as it says here: heart disease and stroke, high blood pressure, certain cancers, diabetes, osteoarthritis and gout. This is a fairly old data, but I think from what I've seen in the data more recently, the number of overweight and obese people is increasing exponentially, especially in Australia, in Western countries. And this is worldwide, the percentage of obesity is around about 37%. That's the worldwide population of around 8 billion people. I think it's around 7 or 8 billion people. So here, you see here that those numbers are increasing as time goes by. And the Australian health authorities have issued a guideline to good eating. But do many Australians follow it? No, not really. So what percentage of calories do you think in the Australian diet that people eat junk food? What percentage of calories do you think? Can you give me a guess? 30? 30%? Okay, any advance on 30? 60 or 70%. 60 is not quite that high, no, but that would be bad, wouldn't it? Okay, so Australians eat about 36% of their calories from discretionary foods. I know, well, it's junk foods. So 23 servings per week for men. So that's around 3 servings a day of discretionary foods. Discretionary foods are fats, junk food, all the rest of that stuff. Women are a little better. They do 17 serves per week. That's average. These are conservative. In my experience with talking to patients, when I ask them how much of the snacks and sweets and stuff like that they're eating, typically people under-report. They don't like to come clean as to how much of this stuff they're eating. They probably don't admit it to themselves either. Yeah, yep. Okay, what is a fad diet? Also known as a popular diet or a diet cult. It's a diet that makes claims or promises of weight loss or other health advantages without backing it by solid science. It can be highly restrictive, in some cases eliminating whole foods such as whole grains or legumes and dairy products or dairy substitutes. So that's basically a definition of a fad diet. And you ever go into a bookshop and you look in the health aisle, there usually is bookshelves full of people with all these different types of diets out there. There's huge numbers of them. And there's a cabbage soup diet, there's a grapefruit diet, there's the South Beach diet, there's the Atkins. Who's ever heard of Dr. Atkins' diet? Yeah, I think that's a worldwide one, isn't it? Okay, what are some of the diets that are really way out there? There's a grapefruit diet, the blood type diet. Have anyone heard of that one? You heard of that one? Cabbage soup diet. That's another one. A magnetic diet. Basically, this guy uses magnets and he puts together his diet plan, and it's basically a low-fat weight loss program, but he calls it the magnetic diet and uses magnets to do stuff. Doesn't make any difference. No, it's just like a prop. So he calls it the magnetic diet and people lose weight on it. So there you go. Lemonade diet, you'll eat lemonade for 7 days and you'll lose weight, which no, that's a no-brainer, isn't it really? You think about it. The feeding tube diet, people will put a feeding tube down, like a nasogastric feeding tube into their tummy, and they'll have that about 500 calories a day of feed. without anything by mouth, which is kind of drastic, I think. And takes all the enjoyment out of eating, doesn't it?
Not only that, doesn't the saliva and the chewing in your mouth increase your digestion?
Well, it can, yes. No, that's part of digestion, is that your starches tend to, the digestion of certain foods start in the mouth because of saliva. And so you're sort of bypassing all that stuff. It still gets digested, but not as effectively. There's a cotton ball diet, which people, I think, have tried that and it led to gastrointestinal obstruction. So it's not a very, some people get desperate. There's the tapeworm diet, which is really drastic. I won't go any further. I think you can imagine what a tapeworm diet would be. But basically they'll swallow the eggs of a tapeworm and that makes them lose weight. So believe it or not, these are some actual diets out there. And it's amazing what people will do in order to lose a bit of weight. And so there's this little better known fad diets, and one called intermittent fasting. Have you ever heard of that one? That's gaining a lot of popularity. There's a ketogenic diet. You ever heard of the ketogenic diet? Dr. Atkins is a ketogenic diet. There's Optifast, there's OptiSlim. Man shakes. You ever seen things for man shakes? That's basically a similar type of thing. The raw food diet, sugar-free diet, alkaline diet, and a juicing diet. And so there's some of your more popular fad, we term, if you want to call it a fad diet. Other diets out there, who's ever heard of the Mediterranean diet? Most are aware of that one. A DASH diet, anyone heard of the DASH diet? That's another one. Vegetarian or vegan, low FODMAP diet. That's a little more specialised type of diet that we use. Weight Watchers, most people are aware of Weight Watchers, and a flexitarian diet. That's another one. So we'll touch on a few of these just to see where they fit in terms of whether it's something that's feasible to use or something you sort of throw it out. Okay, a paleo diet. You ever heard of the paleo diet? So how did this diet originated where people, they went into these caves in Europe and all over the place and tested the poo of these Paleolithic people, which I think there's got to be some better way of making it living, I reckon, but anyway. But what they found when they tested the elimination of these people, they didn't eat any much in the way of grains. They ate more meat and they ate fruits and veggies, stuff that was available they could reach out in the bush. And they call that a paleo diet, and they've built up a whole bunch of books come out on the paleo diet and all that. So some of the pros of that is that high in fruits and veggies, encourages nuts and seeds, eliminates sugar and salt, and called a caveman diet. Some of the things that are not so good about that diet isn't strong in amounts, isn't a lot of evidence to support its claims. Eliminates whole grains and dairy and all the dairy substitutes. High in animal protein, which could lead in stress in the environment. So that's some of the, as far as that's the paleo diet. That was one I've come across a wee bit in my work. Intermittent fasting. This one's, how long has fasting been going on in history? Been going for a long time, hasn't it? So fasting is not something anything new. The Muslims do fasting. The Jewish people has been done fasting for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so more recently, it's become more popular in terms of a type of diet. And claim to shed weight faster than normal eating, claim to reduce inflammation and reduce heart attack risk. It's not a great deal of data on intermittent fasting, but it may have some benefit in terms of, if you ever had a fast, if you fasted for a couple of days, generally at the end of that fast, or you limit it, you've gone on to haven't eaten food for a couple of days, or very low amounts of food for a couple of days. Generally after that you tend to feel a little better and your mind's a little clearer. And there's variations. There's a 5 and 2, where 5 days you eat normally and 2 days you eat around 500 calories a day. Some of the time restricted eating, 16 and 8, where you eat 8 hours, 2 meals in 8 hours a day and have a 16-hour fast. There's variations of it around. But there's limited research available for that. They claim it's effective for weight loss 3 to 5 kilos over 10 weeks. But they found that when they compared with a calorie-restricted diet, that the weight loss was similar. But it might be something that I don't see an issue with it actually. It's not. It's to fast and give your body a rest from a lot of food is probably a good idea. Juicing. Juicing can be popular in a number of areas and uses a wide range of fruits and veggies. Some claim it to cure cancer with juicing. Some people do like a detox diet using what they call a detox diet using juicing. And so basically they're adding fruits and vegetables and spicing into a juicing machine. Some of the pros of that's better absorption by nutrients by removing fibre, eating more fruits and veggie serves, obviously because you're juicing them. Raw food is a living food and the surface enzymes are intact. Some of the cons as far as from nutrition standpoints, it's not off with protein or essential fatty acids. Can increase energy intake due to decreased satiety. In other words, when you're drinking a lot of juice, you don't feel full as, say, if you ate actual food with the bulk. Potential high sugar levels increase carbohydrate levels and decrease low fibre, which with juicing over a period for a short period of time I don't necessarily have an issue with. But some of the low areas are not so good. A lot of your juices will eliminate fibre. So fibre has been shown to be very beneficial in terms of health and gut health and all that. Bottom line includes vegetable long fruit. Need to add protein and fat sources with the juice if you're going to do it on a longer term basis, and moderation. Raw food diet, this is popular in some areas. There's 3 types of raw food diet. There's a vegan raw food diet. There's one that includes eggs and unprocessed dairy, and there's one that also includes raw and dried meat, like biltong or jerky and stuff like that. The criteria of a raw food diet is no food above 40 degrees Celsius. Grains and seeds nuts are sprouted since they can't be cooked, and so it was invented by a guy, a Swiss Maximilian Bircher. You ever heard of Bircher muesli? And he's the one who brought that to fore. But he's also into the raw food thing. Some of the pros and cons of that. Heating destroys enzymes when it's cooked. Raw food contains microorganisms, help to populate the GI tract. Processed foods contain excitotoxins, example with glutamate, which can be detrimental to health. The actual process of heating fats and oils can produce fats that are not as healthy in terms of what we call trans fats. So some of the cons of that, the downside of a raw food diet is that some nutrients are better absorbed when cooked, and they're extrapolating that there could be increased risk of lowered bone density, underweight, dental erosion, and a couple of other things there. So with a raw food diet, nutritionally speaking, it can be done, but you have to be very careful with it, and can be a very difficult one to follow sometimes. And in the raw food diet, there's a lot of sprouting, and there's some definite health benefits that can be had with sprouting, and that could be, even sprouting in a normal diet with no eating is a good idea. And sprouting could include your legumes as well as your grains. Ever heard of the alkaline diet? Okay, alkaline diet is one I see in cancer circles a bit. This one is known as the alkaline ash diet, or opposed to acid ash diet. This diet has been around for quite a few years. When I was going to school for dietetics, we used to have what we call an alkaline ash diet and an acid ash diet. And the alkaline ash diet those diets were used for people who had urinary stones. And so if a urinary stone was like a acid-based or acidy based type urinary stone, you go alkaline ash diet and it helped dissolve that stone. And on the other hand, if the stone was alkaline, it would have an acid-ash diet. You eat more acid-producing foods, and the urine become more acid, and it would start to dissolve that stone. So that's the basis of the alkaline diet. And that was the, until more recent, more medical treatment of urinary stones, this is one of the go-to things they would use. The premise is that when the body is alkaline at this stage, it can inhibit cancer cell growth. Diet is 80% alkaline foods to 20% acid foods. But does eating alkaline foods alter the pH of the body, of the blood? When you eat alkaline producing foods, does your blood change at all? No, it doesn't. Doesn't change. Yeah. In your body, the blood, as it says here, normal blood pH is around 7.235 to 7.45. If it gets above that, your body will kick in and make it become more acid, because that is a very what we call homeostasis. Is a very narrow range of pH in the blood that has to be maintained that way. Otherwise, you can go what you call alkalosis or acidosis and things like that. So, in the blood, that's what your body, if you gets to alkaline, for example, in your blood, your kidneys and your liver and your lungs will kick in and produce the blood, keep the blood at that pH level at a very narrow range in order to maintain health. So that's one of the misnomers of the alkaline diet. The alkaline diet itself that's what we're looking at, and the blood will tend to maintain that pH level at a nice level in order to maintain health. You had a question?
But as far as I understand, the problem is not the blood, because like you said, you have this homeostasis, but it's the intercellular...
The lymph nodes, lymph,
exactly.
yeah.
And there, it can be more alkaline or more acid. And that's the target as far as I understand. I heard some natural parts explaining that it's not the blood, because like you said, you cannot change, or you shouldn't change by your diet.
But the lymph does go into the blood eventually. That's how fat is absorbed into your blood. It goes into the lymph and it goes into your blood, into the large veins in your large veins, in the large arteries. So it's a contentious thing in terms of blood. In terms of lymph, I'm not really sure about that, to be honest with you. The blood is the one that carries the nutrients to the body. And so as far as cancer is concerned, it indicates that cancer cells live in an acidic environment, and the assumption that is they may prefer this. But other cancers live in an alkaline environment as well. So in terms of cancer treatment, it hasn't been found to be effective. These are some of the foods that are suggested to be avoided with a strong, what you call an alkaline diet. And there's strong acids, either white bread, alcohols, colas and sodas and sugars. Mild acids are your meat and fish, legumes, nuts and dairy. And the mild alkaline are the fruits, certain fruits, veggies and stuff like that. And you can see that's how they determine the...
Lorraine, could you just speak up?
Oh, okay, yep. So it's a bit of a contentious area, and there's not a great deal of research being done on it. The alkaline diets they suggest avoid meats, fish, poultry, eggs and dairy products, fats, oils, beans, nuts, etc., almonds, prunes, grains, cherries, blueberries, sugar, caffeine and processed foods. They're the ones they suggest avoiding. And the ones that are said allowed to eat are these other ones: vegetables, fruits, wheatgrass, garlic, etc. So you can see it can be a fairly restrictive diet. And so you have to be take it in terms of as far as restrictions go. The pros and cons of an alkaline diet. Cancer cells don't like oxygen. The alkaline blood contains more oxygen. Eating alkaline foods prevents the body becoming more acidic. Eliminate cancer by this diet. more acid body is more susceptible to yeast, fungal and virus attacks and contains some beneficial phytonutrients. Some of the cons: prohibit some beneficial phytonutrients found in nuts, grains, beans and some fruits. Change urine to saliva. The changes in urine or saliva pH are not the same as blood pH. Acid-base balance tightly controlled by lungs, kidneys and liver and not the diet. Can't assume what happens in the test tube, which they found in terms of cancer does happen in the body. Soil type and growing conditions will influence acid ash levels of produce and will influence the alkaline acid level of produce and their ash. So as far as when I'm looking at an alkaline diet, some of the alkaline diets are suggesting avoiding whole grains, some of your whole grains like your wheats and stuff like that. So I'm a little careful with that one in terms of when you're looking at some as a baseline type diet. You have to be careful with that one and should use it with care. A ketogenic diet, this is a low carb, high protein diet, high fat or low carbohydrate, moderate protein and high fat. There's a bit of a typo there. Ideas are cutting out carbohydrate will starve cancer cells. Examples include Dr. Atkins' keto diet for dummies. The paleo diet is somewhat of a ketogenic diet. And there's one more recently called the man shake diet. Basically, the thing for a man shake diet is that you can have the man shakes, so you can eliminate or cut down on your beer belly and still have a bit of beer at the same time. So pros and cons, basically it can result in quick weight loss, cuts out highly refined high sugar foods and fats, can reduce seizures and epilepsy and useful in brain cancer. But it's a very hard diet to follow. High in saturated fats, low fibre. As we've talked about last time, we talked about the beneficial effects in fruits and vegetables and some of your grains in terms of general health. And this will tend to eliminate some of those foods. Adherence to the diet is low, approximately 50% or lower. Not suitable for patients who are at risk of malnutrition or cachexia. Not all tumours will respond positively to the diet. And so it can be limiting in some nutrients with elimination of starchy vegetables, whole grains and fruits, leading to missing out on vitamins, minerals and other healthy compounds. Okay, so there's some of what we regard as fad diets. So you can see some positive points of some of those diets, some of the points are not so good. And so what do we do in terms of when we're looking at a diet, when we're deciding how we're going to eat and drink? The US News and Wells Report, this is a US-based newspaper. They did a evaluation of all the different diets out there. They found one called the DASH diet. The DASH diet is a dietary approach to stop hypertension. That's an acronym. A Mediterranean diet, a flexitarian diet. A flexitarian diet is whole grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes, and 20% of animal, contains about 20% animal products. Other diets worthy of mention in this article was a vegan diet, the Ornish diet, and the Weight Watchers diet. So when we're considering how to eat, there's a question we should ask us: can I eat this way for the rest of my life? That's a question to ask yourself in terms of when you think, how do I eat, what do I eat, how do I eat for the rest of my life? And so looking at that from that standpoint, when I'm looking at a diet, there's a gold standard I use for diet as a dietitian. This is not normally the gold standard other dietitians use, but when I'm looking, this particular quote encapsulates when I'm looking at a diet how to evaluate a particular diet. Grains, fruits, nuts and vegetables constitute a diet chosen for us by our Creator. These foods, prepared in such simple a manner as possible, are the most healthful and nourishing. They impart a strength, a power of endurance and a vigour intellect that are not afforded by a more complex and stimulating diet. And so when I'm looking at a diet, if it's whether it be a keto diet, a paleo diet, whatever type of diet, that's what I look at in terms of, in the Bible it gives us a blueprint of what a diet, the ideal diet is. And in Genesis 1:29 it says, "See, I've given you every herb that yields seed which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, and it shall be for food." And so all the nuts, seeds and grains were given by God in the Garden of Eden. But also after he included, after the Adam and Eve fell, he said, "You also eat of the herb of the field," and he included vegetables as well. That's the gold standard I use as a dietitian, as when I'm evaluating a diet. If it's eliminating those foods that we know common sense tells us that are beneficial for health, you sort of have to question that diet and look at it more closely. And even if they're eating those types of foods, you have to be careful in terms, as it says here in Isaiah 55:2, "Why do you spend money for what is not bread, and your wages for what does not satisfy? Listen carefully to me and eat what is good, and let your soul delight itself in abundance." And further on, in Proverbs 25:16, "Have you found honey? Eat only as much as you need, lest you be filled and vomit." So the concept of temperance is important there. And so eating the foods that are good for us in abundance, but are even at the same time foods that are, for example, eating a lot of honey. If you eat too much honey, you'll get ill. And when you, in the idea of temperance is also put here by Solomon. So when you sit down at a meal with a ruler, consider carefully what is before you, and put a knife to your throat if you're a man given to appetite. That's pretty radical, isn't it? So what does that mean, to put a knife to your throat if you're given to appetite? Does that mean you slit your throat? Or what does it mean? What does it mean you put a knife to your throat?
Don't eat too much.
Don't eat too much. That's it. Yeah, so temperance, or being even eating too much when even of the good food is not so good. Do not desire delicacies, for they are deceptive food. Thank you. Any questions at all?